After a huge weekend of racing and sport, we can all do with a Sunday saviour to round out the punting weekend in winning style. The Tab Touch Sunday Saviour is here to sweeten your Sunday on the punt. It's over to the boys to provide this week's edition of Tab Touch Sunday Saviour.
Yes, get those Sunday saviours in on 0427 789 571, that Retrovision text line, 234 leg multi. You know how it works. Has to be concluded today. Highest winning multi, $100 Tab Touch voucher. TC will have the winner for us soon, normally by about 7 o'clock. Now, Brad, we've got a bit of time. We've got a good show lined up. Let's have a look at the show. TC's been terrific. So coming up with Jane Sullivan, Chris Nelson, sum up that meeting as Stradbroke at Eagle Farm. What a win. Have we got a new potential champ on our hands here, Brad? What do you think?
I think so. I was just thinking in the run, I said, I've never seen a horse travel as softly in a big race in some time, you know what I mean? It just never looked like it was going to get beat when it was produced, did it? So, tight a little bit at the end, but so it should with the quality of horses it was up against. They were coming, but God almighty, and Angela Jones was very similar on her ride.
On Floozy.
She was swinging on it.
Yes.
Swinging on it.
So War Machine beat Yellow Brick and Private Eye. Desert Lightning was fourth there in the Stradbroke. So Tim Clark comes up after 7 o'clock, then Angela Jones, and then Paul Stuart. What a night it was for him last night at Cannington. 4 winners, and he wins the Winter Cup with Bezecchi. What a win, too, from Bezecchi. So we'll catch up with Paul Stuart. Then after 8 o'clock, it'll be Lockie and Richie in the studios, and we could have Liam Peters on the show as well. So we've got text line open now, Brad. We've got a beauty to kick it off with Snoz. Good morning, Marty and Brad. Watching the Australian cricket selectors, the selection of the top order, i.e. the first 5, is so chaotic and random that is beyond comprehension. The selectors have decided that the out-of-form specialist number 3 or 4 batsman, Magnus Labuschagne, is an opener. Remember Steve Smith's mediocre sojourn in this position after David Warner's retirement. In addition, the selectors have decided that all-rounder Cameron Green should bat at first drop rather than the usual position of 5 or 7, and this is after a long layoff after injury and a few hits in county cricket. The number 3 position is always for the team's best batsman, which he is not. The selectors, unfortunately, are treating their jobs as scientists would be in a lab, undertaking experiments, hoping to deliver a favourable outcome. On the other hand, as they are being persuaded by the captain and senior players to look after their mates. Jeez, that's a well-written text, Snoz. Well done.
Yeah. I mean, the data can tell you a lot, but it's, as you say, matey, I always trust my eye. And, Green and Smith may as well open because they're in there pretty much every time. So it was a bit bizarre, but poor old, what about poor old Timmy? Poor old Timmy. He said the other day, they said, we world champions. And I said, I'm going to get on South Africa now. Timmy, he thought it was over.
Timmy Walker?
Timmy Walker. Yeah,
there's a few coming for him on the text. I missed that. Was that on your show with him on Thursday?
Yeah. Well, they were 4 for South Africa, and Timmy, rightfully so. He thought, well, they'll run through the tail end of the South Africans, and away they go. But when you sort of you never discount it, particularly at the elite level, do you? It's really, really tough. You've got to try and you never take anything for granted. That's for sure. Yeah,
I know. I missed Thursday and Friday's show. Been working the more. There's another 3 or 4 coming for Timmy here. Your cricket tipping is as good as your footy. Tim, what happened to the Australian cricketers? Tim, South Africa world champions. What? Hang on a second. What's this here?
Snoz's text through. Tom, are you still confident the Aussies will beat South Africa? I believe you've given the Aussies the kiss of death. So how many times, someone can do the research for me because I didn't have time to get to it, but how many times in the last 5 years would the biggest score of the game have been made in the last innings of a match to win it?
Oh, it's a good question.
Yeah. If someone can help me out with that, then let me know. I'll go through, have a look later on this morning. But it's rare. It's rare. They're 218 runs in front. South Africa aren't making them. Australia will be World Test champions today. It'll be done inside 3 days.
I'd much rather be in Australia's boat winning everything rather than some of the other top orders going around, which are just as brittle as Australia's. That's us done. Australia will be World Test Championships as well. World Test Champions again by the time we chat on Monday for good measure, Diggers. Cannot lose.
I hope for your sake they are.
Oh, well, they won't lose. It's no issue. Eagles are a chance too. Did I say that through the week?
No, I've heard that as well.
You have a good weekend. Enjoy the footy tomorrow night.
Thank you.
I think that's called double downing, isn't it?
Double down, no, good on him. He put his jackets on the line, and sometimes you get it. That's what happens. You think you got to put yourself out there, and he did. So good on him. He had a crack, but unfortunately he didn't bank on the opener playing the way he did. And look, it was always going to be the case. Australia had 3 very good fast bowlers, and so did they. So, and as you say, it was a one-off. It wasn't as if there was a massive amount of form coming into the game. So sometimes things can happen, and if you get momentum, Marty, we talk about it all the time. Things can go right or they can go wrong, and they went wrong for Australia.
Yeah, they certainly did. What about the AFL yesterday? Let's start with the Dockers last night. Everything was going along okay. What happened in that third quarter? Because I was down having dinner. Tell us how North Melbourne were able to turn it around in the third quarter.
Yeah. Well, look, they started off enterprisingly enough, and you thought, well, that's okay. And Fremantle had to sort of absorb the pressure from the Kangaroos. They weren't playing super football, but they were slightly in front. And, at half-time it was pretty much, it looked as though that, it was going to be Fremantle's for the taking. Mm-hmm. But in the third quarter, they just started to get it right, started to find the football a bit better, and used it well. Execution is very, very much paramount. And Fremantle just couldn't get their act together. The slow ball movement, Marty. We're back to the old days. And
yep.
Even in the last quarter. And it was a real arm wrestle late, and a bit of brilliance here and a bit of brilliance there from Luke Jackson, and they got home by a kick.
Yeah, okay. So post-game, Sarong thought they'd lost the midfield. They looked like they had plenty of it. What did you think about the midfield battle?
Yeah, look, LDU had a really good game. He was doing well. Sheasel was getting plenty of the football. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Sarong and Brayshaw were just as handy, but they just didn't really see much of each other. They were sort of, you have a go, we'll have a go, and we'll see who does it better. And for a while, they looked like Fremantle were going to do it better. But to their credit, they hung it. McKercher was good. He was getting a fair bit of the footy. So, and then a few others started to buy in, and worked out that it was a very entertaining game in the end, just by the scores.
Well, sometimes you've got to win ugly, and it was important that they won. I think it's their first win in 4 off the bye. And, geez, we've had some wet games at Optus, haven't we, this season?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried. I mean, the rain came in the second quarter, and I thought, you've got a big week this week. You've got Carlton West Coast today. You've got, we'll talk to Sully about State of Origin Wednesday, and then Essendon and your boys come to town and take Fremantle. So I hope you look like you're going to get a bit of rain Tuesday, I think.
Yes, could have a lot of rain, yeah.
I hope they don't rip the surface up. Anyway.
Okay. Before that game, Essendon were just humiliated by Geelong, 151-56. We did say Cameron would be good for 5 or 6 goals. He got 6.
Oh, he did. Look, it started off, and you knew you had a couple of debutants and about half a dozen players who hadn't played more than 20 games. And, they were showing a bit of enterprise, but you just know the Cats at the moment are just in that sort of form. They've got gears. And once they got into their stride, the way they moved the ball, Blixar's just dominated, midfield. He's 6'4", 7, whatever it is.
6'7", yeah.
It was amazing. Yeah, he's amazing. And, and Cameron was buzzing around down there, and they were, it was guys like Graham Myers and co really keeping the pressure on and keeping the ball inside the forward 50. It was a demolition job in the end. And, so they've got to lick their wounds, and they're heading your way on Thursday, Marty, so good luck.
Yeah, they couldn't be that bad again, surely. But I do like watching Geelong. They're a great team to watch. Give me a Geelong-Collingwood grand final now. I'll take it.
Well, they can win on the inside and the outside. I've seen that. We've seen that for a number of years. And it was the game that they could. Essendon were all right early last night. They were winning the clearances. They were winning the contested ball. Your boys handball far too much. And when they do handball, it's not to create. It's a little half-metre give. So
panic.
If someone gives it to you, Marty, and the bloke chasing whoever's giving it to you goes to you and you give it to me, and then they run past you and they get me, and they just kept turning the pressure on, and just didn't work for them. So they've got to get some system going, Essendon, and get it going quickly, because they'll be out the fight.
Maxie Holmes was the man. Man, is he having a good season?
Yeah.
Early
he was.
game.
Him and Bailey Smith were dynamite. That was, you could put in Cameron, because he kicked 5 till half time, so that's when the game was won and lost.
Yep.
But Holmes is in a rare bit of form. He's a beauty.
He's
Absolute
destructive, isn't he? 13-18. That's Brisbane 96. GWS Giants 17-5. 107. Straight kicking is good football, and the big guns got involved.
Sure did. Jesse Hogan was playing really well. Cadman had his best game. No Toby Green, so that was an even bigger effort by the Giants. And I just don't know about Brisbane. They just either do or they don't turn up. Or not. They turned up, but they didn't fully turn up. They just thought they would get it done. I think they underestimated the Giants, and it's hard not to. I mean, the Giants haven't been setting the world on fire. We saw them beat Geelong for the 5th time down at the Cattery, and then Fremantle went up there, and you thought, is this just the same team?
Yeah.
You just can't find them. And then they came out and they do that yesterday. So, it's really tightened up the run for the 8, because I thought they might be the way they were going. They might be the one that miss out, but they're back on track again.
Still got a lot of players out, GWS, so it was a pretty good effort. They'll hang around, get a few back, and who knows what they can do in the second half of the season. Now, there's an NRL team who are on fire at the moment, and Sully's going to tell us about his Dolphins. A very good morning, Sul.
Hello, Marty. Hello, Brad. Let's hope I can open the batting better than the Australian team, because, well, as they say, Brad, in my line of work, Marty, a little crack becomes a big hole. We got problems.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Sounds like it. You could play for the Cowboys as well. Open the batting for Australia.
Wow.
Play for the Cowboys.
Aren't they surfing beautifully, the Dolphins? That's 158 points in their last 3 games. And they were having fun last night. There was a try last night. Cody Nicarima, he was in the end goal, and he turned around and he said to Herbie, "Here you go, mate, you haven't scored one yet." He tipped it straight off to Herbie Farmworth. And then Nicarima got one at the end of the game. But, oh, wow. We know, to be fair, I'll give excuses to the Cowboys, because they had, they got the 4 Origin players out. I'm happy enough with that. But what disgusted Todd Payton was just the lack of effort. Mind you, we saw another side on Friday night with lack of effort. I won't miss them in a minute. The Dolphins, they come into town. I know it's Origin week in Perth, but next Saturday night we've got the Dolphins at home, so in Perth, so taking on the Newcastle Knights. But gee whiz, they're good to watch, boys.
Are they ever? 4. What are they now? 4. What's their? I'm just looking at their form. Dolphins' form is 3-1. Their last 4 games. Yeah, so they've got on a real roll, haven't they?
Well, they've won their last 3,
and
in the interim, and it's not as if they haven't beaten anybody. They've beaten some high-profile sides in the interim doing it. So, and as I said, 158 points in those 3 games. So, they've got a little bit of confidence. They've got a very, very good halfback in young Katoa, and Nicarima's just becoming the perfect foil at 6.
Is the coach getting his dues? Because sometimes people say, it was set up by Wayne Bennett, and, the rah-rah-rah and all that sort of stuff. But clearly they've gone to another level this year.
Brad, that is a great point you make, because what happens, and it's proven in history, after Wayne Bennett leaves, the next year the side just go no good. And they started lumpy, didn't they? The Dolphins, they took a while, and Christian Wolf, and he's an experienced international coach, and obviously in the Super League as well. But you're 100% right about what you're saying, and I think the kudoses will start to come, because they're just playing it's a breath of fresh air the way they're playing. It's just, as I said, really, really good to watch. But yeah, you're right about that, and I think before time, I think Christian Wolf will get the kudos he does deserve.
Roosters come from behind, 6-0 down half-time. It was Wong in the 70th to get them home 12-8 against the Knights.
Yeah, very dour game, this one. And
dour.
Very dour it was. And obviously the Knights scored in that 3rd minute through Kyle McCarthy, and then they got a penalty goal back end of it, and all of a sudden the Roosters just had to work hard, and McCarthy grabbed the try in the 60th, and then highly controversial Wong's try. I was I was probably watching. I was happy enough with it. I thought, well, it could have gone either way, but we saw a try to the Melbourne Storm in last year's grand final that was disallowed was exactly the same. So, but the Roosters with, 5 out for Origin, Ponga not there for the Knights, that's a big win in Newcastle and kept up their very, very good record against the Knights.
And Sully, just a word or two about Friday's game. You would have covered off Thursday with the boys on Friday, but the Titans and the Sea Eagles. The Titans found a bit of form?
Titans did. The Sea Eagles starts with D, ends with L. Disgraceful. Honestly, it was 22-8 at half time. They were full strength. Absolutely full strength. The Titans missing their 2 front rowers, and they were disgraceful. That's the bottom line. They did not look interested. So, gee whiz, I've potted Anthony Seabold a few times, and I let him get away with a bit. He's got problems. They really, really have got problems, the Sea Eagles, because that's 2 weeks in a row. They switched off last week against the Knights at half time and got rissoled in the second half, and then, that was just inept. They were awful.
All right, well, let's talk about this game today. South Sydney Rabbitohs, $3. Canterbury Bulldogs, $1.38. Lion at 7.5. Which teams impacted most through State of Origin?
Well, definitely the Bulldogs. You know, when you look, you know Crichton, King, Mann, Burton, and Carraz was called into. It'd be interesting to see if Carraz plays because he was called into the squad as well, just for a little bit of cover for Toto. So I haven't heard if he's, well, we won't know till an hour before kickoff. But, of course, no Latrell. He's in camp with the New South Wales side that arrives in Perth today. But no Walker as well. So when you look at that, the question you asked, Marty, is, the Bulldogs have been impacted. The last time they met in round 7, Good Friday, and the Bulldogs beat them 32-0 at the same ground. So this is it's a big one. I think they'll go. I think they'll just play pretty tight, the Bulldogs, and they'll rely on their defence, which has been so good. So if you're going to have a little play, I think the Bulldogs 1-12.
And are you boarding the big kite and coming over and spending a bit of time with Marty during the week? Are you? You're going to trough up like a rat with a gold tooth?
Oh, I'll be everywhere, as they say. Yeah. I'll be
good idea.
When do you get to town, Sol?
I land tomorrow morning. Yes, I'll be there.
Beautiful.
Arriving tomorrow morning, we got a lovely function at the Crown on Tuesday night, and then obviously the game, and then we roll into Saturday. So it is a real festival of rugby league this week in WA, and on the back, as we know, Brad, on the big news, Big Mal will be, the Big Bear will be in town as well. He's looking forward to coming over and seeing everybody. He's going to be a busy man, of course, with his connection with Queensland as well.
Okay, just have a look at this market on the State of Origin. Wednesday night, 6:05. Queensland $2.75, New South Wales $1.45. The line at 6.5. Can you see a change in this game, or will New South Wales make a 2-zip?
No, I think they can, and the reason being, I know obviously we know Mitchell Moses was ruled out, but Jerome Luai comes straight back into the side like fair dinkum. That's just perfect, isn't it? It's like losing a shoe and finding the right one again because he just fits straight. He really does fit in with Cleary, doesn't he? You know, they've won 4 grand finals together. They've won Origin. Well, actually, they haven't won Origins together because obviously Cleary injured last year and Luai was outstanding, wasn't he? See, so I think Jerome comes into the side and Queensland a little bit of work to do. And as I said, with their new halves dropping Terry Evans, that combination with Munster and Dearden will take a little while to gel, I think. So, and I don't think there'll be a problem with the halves. So, I think New South Wales can, and their record, what's it been, 13 plus the last 2 times at Optus over the Queensland side. And as I said last week to a few boys, I can't remember the last time Queensland lost 4 in a row.
Okay, Sol, I know we're switching codes here to the Super Rugby, but I see it's an all-New Zealand final coming up, Chiefs and the Crusaders.
Yeah, Chiefs and Crusaders, a cracking game with the Crusaders winning, and then the Brumbies last night over there, they got into the second half, they just got blown away in the second half, the Chiefs. So, yeah, that's a long time since we've had an Australian side in that final, but it'll be a worthy final next week, and yeah, Brumbies supporters, they weren't happy last night. I was down at the local club and they were a bit disappointed, boys.
Chiefs beat Brumbies 37-17. Crusaders beat the Blues Friday night 21-14. I'm a bit of a Crusaders fan. Can they win this?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. No, the Crusaders, they're just a side when you talk that Super Rugby. They're synonymous with winning. And they've had a couple of low years, so, yeah, it'll be a big opportunity. I know we've got a lot of Canterbury Crusaders living in Perth. A few mates of mine are big Crusaders fans, so I think they can.
Okay, so always good to catch up. You got one more, Brad, or are we done?
Oh, no, just give me a bit of advice. When you get on the plane, turn left.
Hey, boys, same game multi. We'll go a same game combo. We'll go 2.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Preston's about 340 and Bronson Cherry's 295. So that with Bulldogs winning, we'll have a little bit of a play with that.
Can you just repeat that again?
So Bronson Cherry.
Yep.
To score a try, Canterbury to win, 285. And we'll go Jacob Preston, try any time, Canterbury to win, $3.35.
$3.35. Okay. Wonderful. Thanks, Sol. See you over here. We'll catch up.
Brilliant, Sully.
See you at the Inglewood.
Yeah, that's where we're heading. There he goes, James Sully Sullivan. Do you think many people hopping onto planes now will be asking for seat 11A, Brad?
Oh, God almighty, what about that?
That is one of the most out-wide, craziest things I've ever heard of in my life.
Unbelievable. It just puts life in perspective, doesn't it? You know what I mean? I mean, it's probably something that goes on every day, Marty, and I don't know how many. There's hundreds of thousands of people flying that route every year, and that happens, God almighty.
But
very sad.
The crazy thing is for that gentleman who survived it, the one survivor, you'd go through your life just thinking about it, try and decipher it, wouldn't you? Like, what does it all mean?
Yeah.
Am I the chosen one?
Bro. Yeah, his brothers across the aisle, you know, but half a length back, you know, like just one of those things. There's nothing in his way. There's no trays. There's no nothing. It's just he's got the clear passage. Unbelievable. Yeah, good luck to him, but I think he'll be smashed because of what's happened to everyone else. Yeah,
that is for sure. Couple of games today. We'll just look at the prices at the moment, then talk about these after 7. But Port Adelaide are $1.81. Melbourne are $2. That market has barely shifted all week. Carlton $4.10. Sorry, West Coast $4.10. They shortened it a bit with the news that Walsh is out, and Carlton are $1.24. What do you make of this injury to Walsh?
Well, I worked with Nick Newman last night on your game, and he's been out with a knee Rico, and he said they're all caught. There was nothing sinister about this. There was no hiding it, or he just had a bit of a sore foot, and they said, oh well, we better just do a little scan before we get on the plane and head to Perth. They did a little scan and found a hot spot in his foot. So, just really unlucky. He hasn't been able to have a run at it. It's not that he's missed a lot of games, Walsh. He's missed a lot of pre-season, Marty. And, people like that who run as long and as hard as he does, you've got to have that continuity, and he just can't get it at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay. Get your text in, 0427 789 571. That is for Retrovision and also for the Sunday Saviour. No winner from the Sunday Saviour last week. No winner.
It was a tough day, I must admit.
Well, it's been a tough week, hasn't it? I'm just going to throw one up at you, Brad. I know it has been wet, okay, but I've gone back and had a look at rounds 13, 14 and 15 last year, and the scores were a lot higher than they are at the moment.
Yeah. Look, I read it, totally misread it Friday night. I thought
it was a bit out wide.
But it wasn't high. It was
no. I
which
said
is
out wide,
relatively low.
Yeah.
It was 7 degrees, and it wasn't that bad, but they just couldn't handle the footy. I mean, maybe the yellow sheen, and it got a bit slippery and all that sort of stuff. But and Brisbane, we've spoken about that ourselves, that Brisbane haven't scored 100 points at the Gabba too often this year. I think they got 90 odd against West Coast, and they should have. You know what I mean? They're just not getting it done. They're normally 100 plus up at the Gabba, and other teams are doing it, and they're not. So
has anything changed in the way that these teams are lining up and playing at the moment? Is it some sort of more of a defensive game? They seem to be hanging on to the ball a lot more in defence. These, I'd say, not as good as sides. The better sides seem to be able to move it quicker, but there's probably there's about 4 sides that can, and then the rest can't. So they're quite happy to hang on to it down back, long kick up the line, ball goes out of bounds, comes back the other way. I've got to say, the game at the moment is quite boring.
Yeah, well, look, I'm a big rap for Harris Andrews. I mean, he's been All-Australian quite a few times, as you know. He was awful yesterday. There was no accountability whatsoever. The amount of space that he gave Jesse Hogan was just incredible, and he can't. He's strange. Sometimes he can show good closing speed, but when he's got to run backwards and watch the ball and his man at the same time, he's got himself tied up yesterday. And Jesse just tore him a new one. He was flying.
Okay,
Can happen. Harris Andrews. We've got to give him a mulligan because he doesn't do it too often. But he got slaughtered yesterday.
I'll give you one.
And Payne went down.
Yeah, Payne, which is a disaster for them. Thursday night, Wilkie, do you reckon he would have been sort of playing tight on Darcy or something? But he just seemed half the time Zach Jones ended up being on him.
Look, you and I spoke about this on air, off air. The Dogs were guilty of this. Too many want to be playmakers. They want to run and dash, and that's fine. But if you have too many of them, you can get hurt. And Wilkie's doing that. He's knocking up midfielder numbers at times, Marty. Down back. How does that happen? I'll tell you how it's happening, because he's not accountable for his man. He's trying to, get the stat pat. Pad, he was caught out, and Darcy, what a return for him. He's just incredible. He didn't need many opportunities, but he certainly utilised them when he got them.
Okay, we'll take a break. Coming up, Chris Nelson, we're talking racing.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelpline.org.au.
Sunday morning, Tab Radio Racing and Sport is turned on, and you are listening to the dulcet tones of Marty Young and Brad Hardie on the Aftermath.
And a very good morning to Chris Nelson.
Good morning to you, Marty. Good morning, Brad.
Beautiful day up there in Queensland yesterday, mate, and it was a terrific day's racing, Chris.
It was. It was a great day's racing. Some exciting races, some good results, and the track played. I think the track played pretty much. You needed to be up there on the home turn. You didn't want to be too far back, that's for sure. And look, they broke the track record in race number 2, and that set the scene for the upgrade to a good 3. And amazing what happens when they don't water the tracks a few days out from the meetings. We get firm surfaces, or almost firm surfaces.
Well, we'll start off with the Brisbane Cup, the Group 2 over the 3,200 metres, and Timmy Clark coming up on the show after 7-2. Campbell-Dino wins the Brisbane Cup for Waterhouse and Bott.
He'll be a happy chappy, no doubt, Timmy Clark. 3,200 metres was no problem at all for Campbell-Dino. He didn't lead. We all thought he would lead. But Timmy was happy to sit 1-1, and then he just swept up on the home turn, as so many of those winners did yesterday, swept up wider out on the home turn, went for home, and then he had Etna Rosso chasing. And I thought at one stage down the straight, Etna Rosso might be a chance. I'd say got within less than a length, but Campbell-Dino pulled out that usual Waterhouse Bott trademark fight, and then came away to win by just under, or just over, 1.26 to be exact on the line. And he heads towards the Melbourne Cup campaign. Now, don't forget, we've got Sedalius, who won earlier in the campaign, heading that way also. So that's the third Brizzy Cup for the Tim Clark Waterhouse Bott team.
Third, is it? Okay.
Now, race 5, Compelling Truth, it was nice and tough.
It was. Look, they didn't go overly hard in this race, and Compelling Truth sat outside of Prince of Boom, and he felt the pinch late. Compelling Truth was up on speed, which was the right place to be in a 1,200-metre race yesterday, and was too strong for need some luck. I tell you what, he has no luck, this horse. If he should be called something else, I have no luck, because he sat 3 wide all the way. He's run on very strongly, probably against the tempo and against the pattern, being beaten 0.5 a length. There was a similar story at the Gold Coast last start, so he's definitely a horse to follow. Appen Girl was a lot better. She peaked late. She ran 3rd. One from the back here, Buse, flashed up along the fence the last little bit. He was only beaten 2.5 lengths, Marty. He was a really good run, and you'd see he'll probably go to Ipswich, a race somewhere there, or maybe not Ipswich, maybe the Sunny Coast in 3 weeks, something like that. But just something a little bit lesser than this, he's well up to winning.
Yeah, Buse and Mullane fighting out 4th and 5th, the footballers, into race number 6. Yeah. The JJ Atkins, well, What can we say about this horse, Cool Archie, apart from he is a winner?
God, is he what? Five wins this preparation, and even with me jumping on yesterday, Marty, that didn't even stop him. So that shows how good he is. And look, Martin Harley just had him bolting in the run. He was 6 lengths off them at the 800-metre mark. He just loomed up at the top of the straight. God, he travelled. I just thought, Martin Harley thought he might have hit the front too early, but gee, he just keeps going to the line. You'd love to own one like him. He handles all sorts of going. Up to 1,600 metres, not a problem. He's just a real fighter. Hidden Achievement ran second, was really good. Struck some trouble at the start. 9 lengths off the lead at the 800-metre mark. So he gave Cool Archie 3 lengths. Threw along the inside. He did a really good job. And J-Mac was very, very impressed with that run. Says to follow this horse in the spring. So he goes in the black book for sure. Call Da Vinci ran on well. Providence ran on well. Interestingly, those ones that went forward finished down near the bottom of the page. But all honours with Cool Archie. We'll follow him in the spring and also Hidden Achievement.
Hidden Achievement, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of things in your favour, Chris. We took the 15th Hidden Achievement 10 days ago. And then it missed the bomb at the start.
I should have known.
This was a great run. This was, as I said to Marty, these next 2 races, you've never seen horses travel kinder in big races. Floozy, Angela Jones, he's just swinging on it.
Yeah, she was, and she had this horse in a beautiful spot. The pace wasn't strong. Russian Alliance led. El Morzillo ridden upside down due to the way that the pattern of the day sat second. Floozy sat third. She was just all alone too, nothing around her. And Jones just had the horse bolting up at the top of the straight, let rip at about the 280, and away she went. And she held off Tashi. Tashi was good, very good coming from back in the field to get within half a length of Floozy on the line. Firestorm, probably just a little bit flat, didn't have the same dash. Will obviously strip fitter for the Tiara. All of these will head towards the Tiara in 2 weeks' time, the Group 1, and they all ran well. Floozy, Tashi and Firestorm. It'll all depend on the pace in that race, because that certainly helped Floozy. And we'll see how the pace goes in the Tiara and what sort of gate she draws. But all honours with her.
Yeah, Angela Jones, also a special guest between 7 and 8 here on the Aftermath. I really did like the run of Tashi. It was a good win, good run, wasn't it?
Well, you're right, Marty, because as I said, not many horses made ground sort of late. Yeah, they were all up there on the home turn, the winners. So that was a very good run, Tashi.
Okay, the Stradbroke taken out in emphatic fashion by War Machine. Tell us, we did discuss this, didn't we? Whether or not this change of trainers was going to make this big difference in this horse, and it certainly has. He could be the one to follow going forward now.
Well, look, he's just improved with every single run this prep. He got beaten first up, but only marginally, and he was flashing home. And then he won down south again. Then he was very impressive in the BRC sprint. We said on the Sunday morning after that race, he had the right run, but really picked up and dashed away from them in the straight. He just travelled once again. He was another one of these horses that just loomed into the race on the home turn. Beautiful ride from Tim Clark. We know he had the wide gate. And as we keep saying, wide gates, Eagle Farm, particularly in Stradbrokes, make no difference at all. You just need cover. And he had cover. He eased wider at the top of the straight and let the horse go. With Yellow Brick was an enormous run at $41, flashing home late. I thought for a minute there he's going to get to War Machine, but he couldn't quite cut back the margin. Private Eye was the one that stuck on really well. Now, the 4 leaders, Front Page ran third last, Punch Lane ran second last, Robusto ran last. Private Eye was the one behind them on the fence, and he stuck on to run a really good third. So well done to him. War Machine, well, in the end, the price wasn't too short, as most of us thought. And he was a very impressive winner, all honours. And the first Stradbroke for the name Hayes. Isn't it?
Yeah, incredible. With such a rich heritage and such a good stable, that's for sure. And in the last Kovalik, New Endeavour and Faulkner Park becoming a little costly.
Oh, don't talk about it, Brad. This is one of your stories, this one. So Faulkner Park, every possible chance. No excuses. I thought he was an absolute moral, and he travelled into it at the top of the straight, but he didn't really kick away. Kovalika hasn't won since this carnival, I think 2 years ago. New Endeavour was good because I pegged him as a wet track, and now he's stuck on really well. So I don't think we're going to put Kovalika or New Endeavour in the black book, but I'm certainly not putting Faulkner Park in either after that, I can tell you.
Okay, now let's go to Rose Hill. You've picked one out, race 5, winning proposal for Bjorn Baker and Anna Roper.
Yeah, there was a good run here, guys. Codetta ran third. Michael Freeman and Jace McMurray well backed into favouritism. Second up Wide, no cover all the way. 4 wide, top of the straight. Still looked a chance. Was beaten 1.87. Next start, get on Codetta.
Okay. Righto. Codetta goes in the black book. What else goes in the black book before we have a look at racing today on the Sunshine Coast?
Needs some luck out of race 5. As I said, if it just gets some, it hangs around for another run. And Views, of course, splashed along the fence, and Hidden Achievement we need to follow during the spring. A lot of these have had their grand finals, and we don't know where they'll head next. So needing some luck, Views, and Hidden Achievement out of Eagle Farm, and Codetta, as I mentioned, out of Rose Hill.
Okay, Sunshine Coast today.
We've nearly got back to a good track. We're a soft 5. We might get there today. It's a beautiful day. Race 3, number 1, Golden Cross. Prices have only just come up. I can't believe the price. I thought it would be much shorter. It looks a good thing. Race 3, number 1. And race 6, number 6, Hidden Nugget, on an each-way basis. Had no luck last start. Was held up badly. Should have finished a lot closer. So something each way, race 6, number 6.
6-6 Hidden Nugget. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Something to follow, Chrissy. Good man.
Chris, we'll tune in again next Wednesday morning during the Sports Daily. Thanks for that.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy your Sunday. Cheers.
Racing and sport from different angles. You're listening to the Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Yeah, Brad Hardie over there in Melbourne. Brad, there's one off the text line here. Chaps, do you think most AFL coaches have worked out how to exploit the new rules, 666, stand on the mark? At the moment, most forward lines look like a scene from The Walking Dead. It's starting to get ugly. Burt Street, Barney.
Good on you, Barney. Yeah, no, I agree. It is that, mate. A long time ago, it should have been. How long has this been in, Marty? You do not give them any warnings anymore. You just give the free kick to the opposition. You don't say, warning, West Coast. You just give the free kick to Carlton and get the ball moving, mate. But they're starting to push the envelope again, Marty. And that's what they do. That's what coaches do. They play, and the players talk about it too. Don't worry. They talk about how they can, manipulate the rules also.
10 away from 7 o'clock, and Racetrack Ralphy from racetrackralphy.com joins us. A very good morning to you, Ralphy.
Good morning, boys. Playing your sort of medium town now, be fair to say, but saw I'm okay, and that's all that counts as a punter, isn't it? It's all about yourself.
Well,
yes.
So, Brad, you said to me off air that you thought it played a little bit different there yesterday, Sandown. You had some concerns.
No, not concerns, but I just said, you seem to need to find the right lane. And I'm not sure whether Ralphie saw it that way or not, but it was an interesting day's racing. A few of the ones that were fancied couldn't gather for some reason. I don't know why, particularly some down near the fence.
Well, you didn't want to be hard defence, that's for sure, with the rail out 6. You wanted that sort of middle strip. And I think the other theme of the day was the jockey ranks were really tested because, there's a few on holidays, a few in a state, and God bless War Machine. That's really... So that really tested the depth, and there was a couple that were in the wrong spots, let's say.
Just back to War Machine, he'd rated very highly with you and Vince.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the numbers from yesterday haven't come through, but I've never. Look, it's a good filter. It's not always perfect, but in big races, look at the horse that's been set for the race. It's had the perfect lead in, and to be honest, I just could not possibly fault that horse yesterday. I mean, we gave it a big push after the Mornington and Caulfield runs, and then at Doomben he was best of the day and dominant. And I thought, well, he's going to have to go backwards to not run a place, and if he improves, he's unbeatable. And so, like I said, I haven't seen the figures yet, but just a perfect setup, good Sim Park ride, pace up front, and he was going to always be in that sort of, just behind that mad speed, and that's exactly what happened. So it's nice. I wish it was that easy every week.
Let's go to race 1 and the horse named in your honour. Hello, Romeo.
That's it. Bit of market support for it. 7's into $5. Hadn't done a lot its first prep. I know they took it to the Crack Millions, but why wouldn't you with that type of money? But it said it was going to improve. They ran 3 lengths slower than Chinkley later in the day, and I reckon that's about right. So both Hello Romeo and Street Legal that had trialled well were sound on debut. Michael
Kent put a bit of a rap on Terra Lee after it won race number 2.
Well, he did, and its first run was really good. I often say I'm a bit wary of fourth run first prep, and I reckon this was the case. Bet Witchery, good front-running ride there by Ben Allen, but I'm pretty confident Terra Lee's clearly the best horse in the race, and that might have been an end-of-prep win and perfect Daniel Moore ride to just make sure Bet Witchery wasn't too far away, and as I say, perfect because it was millimetre perfect. That's what it won by. I think the rest are pretty basic, though, and I don't think this was reflective of the fact that Terralee's the best horse in that race.
Yeah, race 3, just because they back him doesn't mean that they win, but was gone along fair way out, wasn't he? And Santa Ana Moon, big run.
Well, that's true, and I think there's times to consider taking $1.95. I think a horse having its 8th run for the prep after Jamie Mellon rode in a career peak and an apprentice goes on is not one of those times. So that to me, we all look at racing different, but I thought that was just a nice race to avoid. Sit back, see how they go, and I think a horse like Just for Show has now switched on and will probably find the right race. But yeah, it was easily. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say easily. The other horse in the race that's got talent is Waitley with a real big figure from its Cranbourne win, but I think it's probably a prep away. It might have just peaked there and it needs to mature and learn how to pace itself. So, yeah, once you took that out of the equation, well, then it was a blanket finish and yeah, it'd be very hard to follow the form from this.
Okay, the Hayes team, they just keep rocking and rolling, don't they? And Benny Allen in wonderful form as well, stylish. They all combine to win and win easily in race number 4.
Yeah, and I've got to say I wasn't surprised. I was pretty happy with this one. This was a really nice win at Bendigo on a similar big type of track. You know, that's probably our Sandown equivalent in the country, Bendigo, and it was super first run ex the late Mike Moroney, and then it was just a car crash watch at Caulfield. It just never. I mean, often they're overbet the unlucky runner, but not in this occasion. They end up serving up a nice price. It was dominant off a fairly soft tempo, so a horse like Sir Atlas was just too far back and just didn't get much luck in the running either. It had a big figure from its first up performance last prep. It can probably improve again, but I think that's the first of a few wins for him. I think second of a few wins for him.
Race 5, the Tobin brothers over the mile until Valhalla defeats Pariah Pearl and sounded out.
Yeah, well, sometimes the best bet's staying out, and I was more than happy to just watch this race because there was some very basic stock going around until Valhalla. 9th run for the prep, put on the speed, won dominantly, and yet it's his 9th run for the prep, and that was his first win. So I think that's pretty reflective. It was a pretty basic sort of race, and I'd be pretty careful of the form out of this one.
Okay, on to race number 6, and Yulong Salute again for Ben, Will and JD. Dan Stackhouse rides Aztec State, again an easy winner.
Well, tell me what's a better advertisement for Team Hayes, War Machine or this one? I mean, wow, what a win. And the pace was on, and they have a horse that just came so ready to play. And it trialled well. I mean, I'm not saying I was shocked by it, but because, you know, the trials, I should say, said it was going to come to play. But when the speed was on, it just crushed them. So if that's its starting point, they're going to have a heap of fun with it. They might even freshen it up and then attack the spring for some of those sort of second-tier staying type races because it was so impressive it wasn't funny. Interesting tactics. It's funny, we all look at racing differently. They questioned Joe Bowditch for taking off on Chicado. It's a one-pace fast leader. They should have questioned Luke Cartwright on why he didn't hand up to Chicado early because it was just going to drag it right into the race. Instead, they both overdid it. Chicado hang on for third, but Russian media, or I reckon Danny O'Brien would be delighted with Roaring Engines run as a stayer, but that sort of showed you that they were all out their feet and there was only one horse who was dominant, and it was Aztec State.
Yeah, race 7, did they move the winning post here? Saban was going to win 300 metres out.
Yeah, well, see, I went wide in the Coddy, Brad, so this helped Saban, right?
Yep.
That's how it works. It's funny what you say about, you said earlier about how the track plays. I'm pretty confident the difference were lanes. You know, Earlswood barrier 2, Saban barrier 10. Well done to Luke Cartwright, just putting it out of trouble. And in the best part of the track out super wide. So I'm very confident that was the difference. And it won't be a bad race form, reference-wise. I think Dublin Journal has run well at $19. It had been going well at Caulfield and easier races. And I reckon Saturday Sadati is absolutely ready now. It just needed that run to peak it as well. So I think there'll be a few winners out of this.
Step up in trip, though, for it. I'd go straight to 2,400 if there was one around. Sadati. Yep. Straight up in trip. Race 8, sure. 1,000 metres. Chinqui, Anthony and Sam, love those two working together. And Rose Hammond boots one home in town. Yeah,
they're claiming apprentices first 4 across the line here. And they're all, look, they're 1,000-metre specialists, but gee, speaking of Team Hayes, you want to take away Katsu, don't you? Not many improvement off G Beg. I'm not saying it's going to improve, but I am saying it's going to get back to it's level with G Beg, and it was a pretty promising sprinter there for a while there. So I think it's a mailbag team. They do pretty well with their recruits, and this one has run a bottler first up. It just tanked out late. And when they're $12 and they run so well first up, you think, well, it's only going to keep improving, particularly as Chinquay and Manolo Bling are both exposed as good sort of off-season 1,000-metre types. So Katsu, one of the horses to follow from this meeting.
Yeah, and in the last run, Harry Run looked like he had the race parcelled up, but then came along Merv Hughes.
Big swerve of Mervyn. Yeah, again, this was a case of fitness versus freshness, and Harry Run. For Team Hayes, just follow their horses. Seriously, they're going so well. But Paddy Maloney, big tick there for taking up the initiative and giving a huge sight. But it was only second up, first time in blinkers. So this was a horse that showed a bit of promise. Again, with the late Mike Moroney early doors, I think it's going to be in for a super prep. And the Open just nothing much went right for it at the run. I reckon it's ready as well. But horses to follow, stick with Team Hayes, Aztec State, Katsu, and Harry Run.
Gavin Bedgood can improve a horse as well, and he got that off Kent and the team there. So well done to Gavin Bedgood, improving that all choose. Now, all importantly, what are we doing with Melbourne today?
Oh, I'm still in a coma, boys, from last Monday, I've got to say. But, yeah, hopefully they just need to keep playing how they've been playing, but just kicking that a little bit straighter would be nice. Goal.
So confidence levels?
Confidence levels are a good solid 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Ralphie.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelpline.org.au.
After a huge weekend of racing and sport, we can all do with a Sunday saviour to round out the punting weekend in winning style. The Tab Touch Sunday Saviour is here to sweeten your Sunday on the punt. It's over to the boys to provide this week's edition of Tab Touch Sunday Saviour.
Well, Brad, you know how it goes better than anyone else. 2, 3, 4-leg multi, and as long as it's concluded today, the highest winning returning multi gets a $100 Tab Touch voucher put into your account, and there was not a winner last week, Brad.
No, it's been very tough, Marty. I can understand that. I've got a 2-legger today up there at Wangaratta. There seems to be still a little bit of slow tracks around up that way.
Yes, on the heavy.
Yeah, so a couple of horses have been going really well. Race 9, number 6, War Party at $4.60, and race 10, number 4, Yam at $6.50. Both of those horses are going nicely, particularly wet underfoot. So we'll take a throw up the stumps with them. $29.90, Marty.
A little 2-legger.
Yeah.
So what is it? 9, 6, 10, 4?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, well, you don't want to get greedy, do you?
No, we just like to get a result every now and then, Brad. The meatloaf, it's tasting beautifully. So we're heavy 9 there, and then we've got a jumping program at Terang, and it'd probably be similar there, overcast heavy 8. We're racing in Kalgoorlie today, a big 7-eventer up on the goldfields. The first event gets underway at 12:40. And we're just waiting for the track rating to come in there for Kalgoorlie today. So 12:40 the first, the last of 7, over the mile to go at 4:17. Not a bad meeting too. Good fields up there on the goldfields today. We'll talk about that a little later on. 10 minutes past 7. Let's hop into our text line. And here we go. Morning, Marty, Brad and TC. Well done to North Melbourne. They were up for the challenge. And Freo can thank Jackson and Tracy for getting him over the line. Brad, can you please explain how teams like Essendon come out one week, take it right up to the team, and then get walloped by the next, and how long will it be that Brad Scott keeps his job? GWS have been poor, 2 of their best players out, and they beat Brisbane. Why Bo Allen can't get into the Eagles team is beyond me. Good to see Clay Hall back in. And they need to give all the young guys a block of 6 games, otherwise these kids are going to be wasted. Have a great day and week. Take care. That is from Lisa Vellenbrook. Well done, Lisa, and a good morning to you.
Good on you, Lisa. Yeah, it's an interesting one with Chris Scott. He's trying to, Brad Scott, sorry, he's trying to reinvent the wheel with a few of his youngsters there last night. Blackiston put him down back, and he's not really a backman, to be brutally honest. And it was quite bizarre because I thought he needed to pay a little bit more respect to the midfielders, Bailey Smith and Holmes, for the Geelong Cats. But remarkably, it was actually Chris Scott who was paying respect to Caldwell and Merritt. You know, Caldwell basically was being followed around by Atkins. You know, you wouldn't have thought that would be, you'd need to do that. You'd think you'd be able to beat them just on a shootout, but he didn't waver. So maybe Brad should take a little bit of a notion out of Chris's playbook.
As far as how long he'll continue on, when you've got 10 or 12 of your, first 22 or 23 out, you've got an out. So he won't come under any pressure. But performances like that, one thing about Essendon, when they see they're playing Geelong, it's like they're looking at Satan. They just, they're gone.
Yeah,
gone,
some teams just don't play well against other teams. And then there are some teams who play well against better teams that they play. Yeah.
Hi, guys. Bluey here. It was a good feeling to see Blackiston making his debut yesterday, but sadly, why was he playing in the back line? He's never played there before. He was recruited as a ruck and possibly a forward. No wonder the Bombers are going nowhere. Well, it's a very good point you make, and Brad and I were just talking about this off air, that they also recruited Liam McMahon in that mid-season draft, and he is a guy who's played a lot of reserves footy for Carlton Collingwood. And he's a guy who started his career in defence. The first game they played him in the VFL, they being Essendon, he was down back before they moved him forward. So you would, and he's 198 centimetres. So if you want someone to go in and say do battle against Shannon Neal, you would have thought it would be Liam McMahon. So
that's right.
It's a strange one.
Sometimes coaches outsmart themselves. They overdo it.
Yep.
And they think, we'll play him down back, and we'll play him on a better player, and hopefully he can take him to the ball and he can halve the contest. That's all very good in theory, but it's like going to a gunfight with a pocket knife. You've got to be able to be taught those skills, and we've been worried about the West Coast with that for a long, long time. But fortunately, a few blokes are starting to show a little bit more now after, as you say, playing some games.
Okay, Waffle scores from yesterday. Peel Thunder 14-15-99 beat West Coast 7-5-47. That was the win they really needed to get themselves going. Swans at home 9-7-61, beaten by Perth 11-10-76. And the big game, South Fremantle 15-7-97 beat East Perth. We love beating the Royals, Brad, 12-15-87, and that one was at home. So that brings us to this text from John. Morning, guys. Watched the first half of the Bulldogs and Royals yesterday, which was on TV, and the footy and umpires were excellent. Maybe AFL umpires should watch some Waffle umpires. That is from John.
Well, maybe he can give us a little elaboration on that, what he meant by that, because you and I have been discussing off air about the blights on the game at the moment. So he might have seen something that's obviously being adjudged well.
Now, Brian from Karrinyup. Hi, Marty. Can you ask Brad about insufficient intent rule? My gripe is when there is a contest near the boundary line and a player picks up the ball and then just walks over the line. How is that all good? Wangaratta now a heavy 10. Thanks, Brian of Karrinyup. We saw McGrath go for it last night, but he's got to be smarter than that. McGrath.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But, they've got to have a better... we talk about it all the time. The umpires, trying to do a good job, but they've got to have a feel for the game. And, sometimes, particularly when players for teams are kicking the ball forward to their way towards goal, sometimes they get pinged, Marty. I'm thinking, well, why would they want to kick it out? Unless they're playing for touch, deep in the forward line, but, to try and get a stoppage. But it doesn't normally happen like that. And some kicks are just shanks, and just miss slew off the boot. And, they're pinging them, and the crowd goes up, the umpires go up, and, I don't like last touch footy. They do it in South Australia, but I don't want to see it come into the AFL.
Oh, it'll come in. It'll come in eventually, I reckon. Oh, well, maybe not for a bit, because we've got a new man with common sense in at AFL House, Swanee.
Yeah.
I hope he's as good as they say he is, Brad, because he's got some work to do.
Well, he's going to be strong. He's got his own thoughts. He's been in the game, as an administrator for the best part of 26 years, Marty. So you'd think he would have learned something along the lines of that, and it's been at the highest level too. He did start at Williamstown prior to getting his first gig in the VFL AFL. So he's done the rounds. He knows what he's doing.
Okay, US Open on at the moment. Burns 4 under, Spawn 3 under. That's through 15. Through 16 is Adam Scott 2 under. Hovland is 1 under after 16. Then Lawrence even at 17, and Ortiz is even at 18. So he's through. Hatton from the UK is 1 over. So some big scores here. 4 under leading it. That's Burns from the USA.
Yes, and I think a little bit further down I tied for 13th with Mark Leishman, but I'm really pleased for Adam Scott. I mean, he's just sort of, in a sense, fell off the radar there for a while, hasn't he? He hasn't been really contending a lot, but it's good to see, and it's it's just, 4 under. He's at 2 under.
2 under, yeah.
You're nearly on the podium already if you can get it right in the last 8.
Well, he said he's playing old man's golf. He's just nudging it up the middle, keeping it straight. So it's a very tricky course if you're off that fairway. Yesterday we saw Indiana Pacers. We're on them at the big odds here, Brad, and they blew it. 12 points up late in the third. And Thunder stormed home and won that 111, 104. So they're now 2-all, and they go back to OKC for the 5th game. And, well, the old rule of thumb is who normally wins the 5th game wins it.
Yeah, what is it that, about it's amazing where teams can set up, you'd think unassailable leads almost, and you just play the last 2 minutes, don't you? And all of a sudden they get rolled. It's incredible.
And the Pacers' strength is normally in the dying minutes of a match. They really are hard to beat in that situation, but they just lost it yesterday. Anyway, so it's 2-all. We go back to OKC now and fight out game number 5. Another one here off the text line. Brad, how excited are you about the Bears coming into this NRL competition and Big Mel in charge?
Yeah, look, it surprised me a little. I know he's going to be over on Wednesday, and look, I've got to admit, and I've known Mel, for best part of 40 years, Marty, because he was around when Wally Lewis, Gene Miles, Darren Lockyer, all these sort of guys were coming through. Laurie Daly, and he's a wonderful fellow, but he hasn't coached. He's coached the Kangaroos.
Yep.
I'm just wondering. He's a figurehead. I hope they've got this right. They're going to have to stack people around him, I think, just to because no disrespect, he's a ripper. But some people I talk to who won't go on the record and say it, but they're just sort of a bit.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, so Sheedy could coach, but he was that sort of figure, if you like, when he went to GWS?
Yes, he was. But the thing about Sheedy, in his heyday, when he coached Essendon for so long, you look at the blokes that he employed underneath him, Pagan, Mark Williams, Bomber Thompson, these sort of guys, Neil Danaher, he really did go for the best 2 ICs. And sometimes that's what you've got to do. Some coaches who are at the top of the pinnacle don't want people who are maybe a threat. I'm not saying Mel's saying that, but, I'm just going to be interested to see how this all plays out, Marty.
One off the text line here from Adrian. How good Lucy Fiore yesterday at Burberry. 4 winners. Fantastic. I think we said a couple of weeks ago. 4, did she? Yeah, rode a 4-timer. She won on Desert Whisper straight to the top in race number 2. Then she was on Famous Dane beating Lord Gannigus in race number 4. Got on-plane air home for Grant and Alana in race number 5 over the 1200. Kalima for Darren McAuliffe in race number 6, the Swan Draft. That led us into Opportunistic winning the Raconteur Stakes. And then Smokin' Joe as a party won the last, a double for Darren McAuliffe and just beat Keep It a Mystery for Lucy. Would have been a handful had she got up there in the last. Look, we said a couple of weeks ago, she'd be top 5 female riders in Australia. No doubt about that at the moment. She's in wonderful form. And have a look at the other 2. We said, obviously, Jamie Carr, Angela Jones. We saw her in brilliant form there yesterday in Brisbane.
Yeah, you just talk to people about Lucy, and they say she's just one of the top horsemen per se about all facets of the game, which is absolutely fantastic. And I don't mean to be silly, but I wasn't able to watch the Bunbury meeting yesterday because I was at the G, and watching your boys getting savaged. So I haven't had a chance to check in and see all the races and the like. So well done to her. I'm going to go back and have a look at all the replays on that now and see how well she went.
Okay, Brad, another one off the text line. What do we take out of the Dockers last night? They looked to be home and hosed and nearly coughed it up again.
Yeah, look, don't panic too much, but you know what I mean. And we've said this a lot, that people that don't get ahead of themselves. The Fremantle, the Bulldogs, and others in the competition can't afford to be doing that. We'll win the next 4. Well, yeah, that may be, you think that, but you don't say it or fall for it, because it permeates through the team. And they've been fantastic recently, but they just didn't look like they looked like they had it done, Marty, and then they all had a nano nap. You know what I mean? And it was up to the Kangaroos, who have been struggling, let's say, and they pinched a game down there at Bunbury last week. All of a sudden found their gusto and nearly pinched it back. So, yeah, they'll be happy to get the 4 points and just run and keep moving. And we'll look back in round 19 and 20 and people won't remember that they just fell in.
There's a few key stats which would show that North Melbourne may have been a bit unlucky not to have won this as well. They inside 50, 60 to 48. Yep. Clearances, they were able to just beat that, 41-37. Contested possessions right on. I know it was a game in the wet. It was a tough slog there for most of it, but 149-147. They had a slightly better use of the uncontested possessions. So from a North Melbourne point of view, coming over here, selling a game, spending a week over here, they almost went home with 2 wins. It's got
2 wins, yeah.
It's got to be a tick, doesn't it, for North Melbourne?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. As I said to Diggers, and he hasn't been enamoured with Clarko, it's fair to say, and at least they showed a bit. And I said that they would be absolutely having a sigh of relief, having won that one down in Bunbury, because it's one thing to get the money, but if you don't get the points, you're always going to come under question. And maybe do the Bunbury one again. I would think, but as I say, they could do a game against Collingwood at the MCG, Marty, and realise exactly the same money and not leave Melbourne. That's what I would.
One here from Stefan. Did it show last night that the 2 rucks can work for the Fremantle Dockers?
I wasn't overly sold on it. And I'm still not going to be. I mean, the conditions suited Sean Darcy last night. A little bit soft underfoot. He wants to wrestle, and you could see that Cherry and the umpires and him were having a 3-way turf talk, about, stay a metre apart and stop wrestling and all of that sort of stuff. But they're the conditions that suit Sean Darcy. Whereas you've got someone like Luke Jackson, who kicked a wonderful goal to pinch the game late. But he's just got that ability when the ground's good to get around it like Dean Cox used to and be a ruck rover.
Gee, a week's a long time in footy. We haven't spoken about the Friday night game, but it was a carbon copy in reverse, wasn't it, for Adelaide? They just couldn't get this game done, very similar to the previous week when Brisbane couldn't get it done against them, and Hawthorn got out of trouble late to win the match.
Very hard watch, Marty. Now, I know people are saying, the AFL did it deliberately, and they may have. I don't know. But, playing a game in the middle of June at Captain Gornwagon Stadium, it's not smart. Play it end of March, play it August. At least you got a chance of getting something worthwhile. It was 7 degrees, but it would have felt like 3. And you could see the players were breathing, and they were blowing, around, and I thought, and they just couldn't handle the greasy ball, and that was very underwhelming, that game. But to their credit, somehow, and we always say it, Marty, you never had a low-scoring game, and somehow Hawthorn found a way to win.
So any of this verbiage that you hear that they don't need it, or they don't need a stadium with a roof, completely throw that one out, because they do need a roof.
Yeah, I think so. Well, what we haven't zoned in on, and you and I have spoken about it with Shorty quite a few times and the boys on Brekkie, is that it's not just footy. It's going to be cricket. It's going to be rock concert. It's going to be, a centre of excellence for lots of things. So, and you don't want to have things rained out, and nothing worse, is there, than having a rock concert or a big band go down there, and all of a sudden you've got no roof and it rains and all of the scaffolding rips the ground up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, correct.
So just get it right the first time. Get it right the first time, and if you have to push it back, that's what they're going to have to do, I reckon. They can't be starting it because a lot of people saying, "Oh, just start it and play at UTAS and Bellerive." Well, that doesn't cut it. That's not going to cut it. You've just got the state back together. There was always a divide between the north and the south in Tassie. Ask anybody who lived down there. You just got them back all on the same page, and now you want to split them up again and say, well, we should play more games at UTAS than we should at Bellerive. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Special guest coming up right now, and I'm sure he's going to like listening to this replay of the Stradbroke.
Homeward bound in the Stradbroke, and the leader was front page. He's trying to kick away. Private Eye shouldering into the clear, and here comes the favourite, War Machine, thundering up the centre of the track and going to a clear lead. Down below the 200 metres, War Machine leads. Private Eye is trying hard. It's War Machine in front, short of 100 to go. He's the leader. Flashing over the outside is Yellow Brick. War Machine gripping on. War Machine gives Hayes their first Stradbroke and wins from on the outside.
Timmy Clark rode that horse beautifully. He joins us now on the aftermath with Brad Hardie in Melbourne, Marty Young in Perth. Hi, Tim. Congratulations on a wonderful ride, and what a win by War Machine.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was an excellent performance by him yesterday, and the boys had him primed, ready to go on grand final day.
Tim, you must have had a chock-a-block full of confidence when you were going down the back. You had that 3-wide cover, and he was just trucking for you, wasn't he?
Yeah, I've been confident all week, really, and obviously he was probably the horse on the way up that had sort of got in there with a reasonably light weight, really progressive horse, and he put the riding on the wall in the BRC sprint, and he just sort of, he didn't have to probably improve too much off the back of that. So it was just a matter of, just giving him the right run, and and I trusted that he was going to do the rest. And I think that just looking at him and how he paraded and everything, he probably improved from his previous run. So he was always going to be really hard to beat.
So you took over for Blake Shin, who'd ridden the horse in the BRC sprint. Did you get a chance to ride him in track work at all?
No, I hadn't been on him until yesterday. So but I obviously watched a lot of his replays, and obviously had a good chat to the guys before the race, and we're both on the same sort of page, Ben and myself, about just how we wanted to execute it, and we're confident that if we could do that he was going to be good enough to take care of the rest.
So you hear this a lot from jockeys like yourself. What sort of a feel did he give you before the race when you first jump on him?
He was nice and relaxed, especially getting down to the start. I sort of probably pulled him up 100 metres before the gates, and he just walked down behind the barriers, lovely and calm and relaxed. And he was in a really good frame of mind, I felt, and that sort of just continued to fill me with confidence.
Tim, goes without saying you're a real pro and a master tactician. Did you have any preconceived ideas of who you may want to follow? Because there's a couple of oldies there that run out of their skin again. There was Private Eye and a few of those horses. The Heathcote horse, they know still how to compete at the highest level, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Private Eye's been a benchmark for. He's a good yardstick. He's ran well in Stradbrokes before, and we just sort of felt that, especially the track was very quick yesterday, and there was good speed in the race, going into the day, and then with the track being as fast as it was, felt that it was that was only going to probably generate a little bit more speed. So we thought that there was 4 or 5 horses that were going to be showing good speed, and fortunately had a few of them drawn outside us, so we could sort of come across behind them, and then when I saw Transatlantic out there looking to get in, it gave me a nice back to follow, and gave the horse some cover to relax, and a nice card into the race. And I just wanted to, if he got the first half of the race right, it was just a matter of just giving him clear air from the top of the straight, and away we went.
So he's a 4-year-old by Harry Angel. He's had 13 starts now for 6 wins. What do you think the future looks like for him? And distance range, is he going to get much more than 1,400, do you think?
The horse is probably just starting to come to hand now, like the triple way to Brisbane's going to do in the world of good. And, obviously seeing how good the Hayes boys are at, nurturing them horses through. So I think that, definitely the best is still ahead of him. And, I don't think there's any need to stretch him out too much further. There's so many options around that 6-7 furlong mark. But, they'll work it out. And I'm sure that, he'll measure up to the bigger races in the spring.
Marty might want to come back to that a little later, but you got your eye in early, the Brisbane Cup, Campbell-Dino. We thought you might lead, but you decided just to sit 1-1.
Yeah, he's just jumped out of the ground the last sort of 6 or 8 weeks. And I think a big part of that is taking the blinkers off him and just making sure that he's relaxed in that first half of his races. And that's why I wasn't sort of too concerned about pressing on or pressing for the lead. It's just all about making him, get into a nice rhythm and relax. And once he was able to get a nice trail in behind them, it wasn't an overly fast run race. He showed a really good turn of foot. And, he's loved his time up in Brisbane since he's been there. And he's another one that, he's probably just starting to coming to his own now. And I know Gay was she's straight on the phone to the handicappers for the Caulfield of Melbourne Cup after the race, so she's very excited.
3 times now you've combined with Waterhouse Bott to win a Brisbane Cup, so it must give you a great thrill to continue that association.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a really good carnival up there with Gay and Adrian, a handful of winners, stakes winners up there for them, which is great. And, they're obviously a great supporter of mine, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. What's your week look like, Tim? Coming this week, are you going to refresh up, or have you got quite a few commitments during the week?
Not too bad. I think just got some races Wednesday and Thursday, and then actually in Sydney for the first time in a couple of months on Saturday. So before probably going back up to Brisbane later in the month for the Tats Tiara meeting. So, and then maybe at some time in July, I look to have a couple of weeks off to refresh and recharge and get ready for the spring.
Yeah, never stops, does it? Just want to talk to you about a couple of the losing rides. Another for Waterhouse and Bott, Farnicle in the JJ Atkins end of prep run.
Yeah, a little bit. I think he raced on that really heavy track at Eagle Farm 2 weeks ago, and it just might have taken a little bit out of him, and he just wasn't quite the same horse there yesterday. But he's definitely a horse to follow into the spring. I think he'll make a nice sort of a nice miler next preparation.
And that Elmore Zillow of Kelly Schweider. What do we make of this horse? He can always run a race, can't he?
Yeah, just that she drew terribly there yesterday, and just the way the track was, probably just rode her a bit closer than she's used to. But saying that, I thought she was pretty brave and how she fought on and to not get beaten far, finishing 4th. So I thought it was a really solid performance. And if she had been able to draw a barrier, she sort of she definitely finishes a lot closer to the winner. And in the last New Endeavour, is it a horse that needs a bit of sting out of the track? We thought that going in, but he performed. That was probably one of his best runs yesterday. So he's wide early, had to do a fair bit of work and fought off all the challenges until the last couple of hops. So he's a horse that he loved racing in Queensland. He's had 4 starts up there. He's won 1 and been beaten in a photo his other 3. So I don't know what it is, but he definitely loves getting up to Queensland, and hopefully he can bring that form back down to Sydney or Melbourne in the spring. But it's good to see him hit some form. It's taken a while for him to break through to get a win, but he backed that up with another great performance. Hey, Timmy, looked a big crowd up there yesterday. The atmosphere electric. Yeah, it was their biggest crowd of the carnival, obviously, and they're on their biggest day, which is great to see. Weather was good, and there's a good vibe about the place yesterday. It was good to see so many people out there enjoying the good racing.
Good day at the office. Brisbane Cup and a Stradbroke. Well done. Thanks for coming on the program and sharing it with us.
No worries. Cheers, guys.
There he goes.
Go on,
Tim Clark. Wow. Fair day at the office, isn't it?
It was a nice day.
Yeah.
Oh, no, lovely day. Yeah, lovely day.
So the question will be with War Machine now is that his rating will go to a point where he has to sort of meet the best horses at weight for age, and the question will be, can he take that next step? I think up to 1,400 he can. Why can't he?
Yeah, exactly. So I know there's a bit of brouhaha that he might have been going in a bit short. The owner wasn't going to have a bet, but he doesn't need the money. So that's one thing. But I think he was obviously trying to fleece the bookies because he never looked like getting beat, did he? So, so obviously the Hayes boys fill you with confidence when they've got one right. They're hard to beat.
Let's take a break.
And Tashi finally getting out, but Floozy and Ange Jones broke clear, going for home in the Dane Ripper, running on strongly. Tashi, 50 to go. Floozy in front, needs the post, hanging on and wins. Floozy first, Tashi second, Firestorm third, Elmer's and
Oh, she's in wonderful form, Floozy, and so is that mare's jockey and Angela Jones, who joins us right now. Marty Young in Perth and Brad Hardie's over there in Melbourne. A very good morning to you, Angela, and congratulations on the win.
Good morning. Thank you, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, great to have you on. And, geez, you're riding on. Geez, you're fortunate to have a really, really good partnership with the Golden Stable, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I've been lucky there. Obviously, I was an apprentice to Tony, and he supported me all the way through and kept on supporting me as I sort of went through that tricky time coming out of your apprenticeship. So it's been a really good connection we've been able to make.
Yeah, well, tell us about the connection with this mare, Floozy, and the improvement in her. It sort of mirrors a little bit of the Stradbroke winners' change in form as well, because this horse has now had 14 starts for 6 wins, and those wins, 4 of them have come since the horse changed stables and went to Tony Gollan. She's really got on a big, improved, progressive run, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's really just gone from strength to strength. I mean, her form before she came up to Queensland wasn't anything too flash, and she's just really gotten better each harder test they've given her this prep. And I think each time she goes to another race, I think, oh, she's been winning well, but this is harder again. Can she measure up? And she just never really fails to impress you.
Just lost Brad over there. So, so as you said, each time you increase the bar, she jumps over it, and you've got a Group 1 coming up now. She's heading towards the Tats Tiara?
Yeah, and there's probably nothing else I'd like to be on. You know, they say about mares in form, they keep their form. So she's going well enough. I can't see why she can be right there. Yeah,
okay. So Tony is so confident with this mare. You can tell that he's so... He's got her in a place where he can just sort of think she can do anything. And is that the way you feel with her as well?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's 4 runs where she's just won quite dominantly each time. I think it's probably only adding to her confidence, and I think she's probably just improving with that confidence, and she's just the type of horse that you could see her at that level. She's lovely, beautiful, big type if you see her in the flesh, and I feel every time I get on her, she just fills you with this confidence because she's such a big striding, big moving mare. Yeah, and she seems to go better, you know, just racing just off the pace like she was yesterday. Yeah, it's ideal when she can get that gait. She can get a good gait and she can just jump and have to do no work and settle well off the pace, and she's got a brilliant turn of foot. It's probably only a short little turn of foot, but she travels up so well. You can keep her on the bridle for a fair way, and she travels up beautifully underneath you, and then she's got a really nice sharp dash, so it really makes it easy, and I think it's how she has been able to win so dominantly, because she sort of does everything right, and she can hold in that little sprint she's got to when you ask for it. So you mentioned this difficult period from apprentice to senior jockey. How difficult was it for you to make the transition? Well, it can be really difficult for some, but I found it wasn't. It was pretty smooth sailing, probably just having the backing of the Golden stable behind me. And if you have that good season while you're apprentice, there's no reason you can't keep the momentum and make it not too hard. But you do need that your boss when you're apprentice to keep supporting you, because if you lose that support, then the other trainers really have no reason to put you on. So if you got the right boss, it isn't actually that hard.
How about the run of Transatlantic in the Stradbroke?
Yeah, we were pretty happy with him. Obviously, it was a hard gate to contend with, and we wanted him in the first half because you can't really take him out the back. He sort of gets a bit uninterested and doesn't want to have a go. So we had to sort of dig him up and put him there. And we had cover probably for the first half, but he was never very comfortable in the run. Obviously, it was quite a hot tempo, and I just didn't feel like he was travelling confidently underneath me to really give that nice kick. And he sort of has to be travelling well to kick, and then there was a little bit of buffeting in the straight, which is really not his go at all. So it was probably not a bad run, all things considering.
Okay, so what's it like being up there, biggest race day of the year? We're just talking to Tim Clark, and there was a massive crowd on course. It must be an electric feeling to be a jock up there riding in front of the big hometown crowd.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's such a privilege to get rides on these days. Obviously, we're there and we've got a job to do, though, so you're drowning most of it out. But when you do sort of get a glimpse of it all and you can soak it in, it definitely is an electric crowd, and it's a great day to be a part of.
Certainly is. We're only talking earlier on, our leading female rider over here, Lucy Fiore, had a terrific day yesterday with 4 winners, and the female jockeys around Australia at the moment are really forging a path, and you are one of the leaders in that group.
Yeah, no, we definitely are. I think the stats are showing that now, and I think every state you go to, there's a really good bunch of girls in the girls' jockeys room, and we've obviously got to thank the girls before us, because it hasn't really, for me and everyone coming through in my time, it really hasn't been hard at all. We don't really have to prove ourselves. It's sort of been the path already been forged for us from a lot of hard work of the girls, of the jockeys before us.
Well, we've lost our mate Brad Hardie, but we've got him back. Hey, Brad.
Sorry, Angela. I don't know what the little gremlins are in the system. That's what happens on a Sunday morning. I'm sure we're all a bit dusty after a big day's racing. On a lighter note, I'm just watching back with the race. I mean, I know you're an athlete, but are you a smoker? I mean, because you went 300 metres, and I thought the only thing missing was the slippers, the smoker's jacket, and the cigar.
Yeah, that's right. I was definitely giggling. I had a whole lot of horse underneath me, and I was just giggling, seeing everything around me come off the bridle, and I knew what sharp sprint she had left.
Okay, what other horses of Gollins that you've been riding or riding at the moment that we can follow going forward? Have you got a couple of sneakies that Tony wouldn't mind you telling us about?
Obviously, the Rastro, he's not very sneaky. He's well documented. Everyone sort of follows him. He's having a couple of weeks off, and then hopefully he's going to target something down south in the Spring Carnival. Brilliant.
Good stuff. And as I say, you've got a great association with Tony, but Emily Lang's going well too, isn't she? I mean, do you support each other and push each other?
Yeah. No, Emily's going great, and she's really good in the room. There's not too many people that don't get along with her. She's a bright, bubbly personality that she makes the jockeys room quite fun, and she sort of brightens up some long race days. So no, she's good to have around.
One off the text line here from Sam. He wants to know a horse that you've been winning on. Haven't seen it for a while, since January when you won the Mayor's Vase, Queen Air. Now, I do know that the horse is back in work with Tony Gollan. What sort of a feel did she give you, and what sort of a future she got?
Yeah, brilliant. She was really stood out to me, how she could have this great turn of foot over a trip. She was struggling to get her to settle. That was probably she's still sort of learning to really drop it and settle nicely. But even so, she's sometimes doing a little bit wrong in the run. She still will have the most magnificent turn of foot at the end of a staying race, which you don't see especially from a lot of the Queensland stayers. So I really did find something really stood out about her, and I'm really keen to get back on her this prep.
One to watch going forward. Angela, you are one to watch. We love your riding capabilities and following you over here in the West. And, well, one day you can come across here and ride a winner of a quokka or something. Tell Tony Gollan to set one up.
I will. I'd love to.
All the best. Thanks for coming on the Aftermath.
Thank you.
There she goes, Angela. Where did you go, Brad? You have to go somewhere, did you? Left me to do the heavy lifting.
Look, I think it was Ralphy. I think he was just looking at last-minute instructions for Goodwin to maybe pinch that game today a little later. He wasn't as confident as he was the other day.
No,
when
he wasn't.
On the plane.
I was looking for a bit of a push. These two teams normally play close games as well, don't they? What about the game here today with the West Coast? I can feel a lot of the West Coast fans think they're a bit of a chance today against Carlton, and now that Walsh is out, their confidence is probably buoyed again.
Yeah, look, I think, teams like GWS, not that they're at the same level as them, but, they give you a little bit of confidence. It can happen, like if they go out, they've got to play 4 quarters, Marty. As I said to the boys on Brekkie, you're going to know your fate by 3/4 time. If they're somewhere near Carlton at 3/4 time, they're in a shot with a shot for the title. But if they're not, I can't see that because Carlton aren't running through the line, Marty. They're really struggling without Walsh now. They need more out of Curnow. Curnow historically is beaten up on West Coast, so they've got to make sure that they can cut that down. Cripps and these sort of guys, Chera. It's going to be a good game, and hopefully they can just hang in there for a little bit longer and don't lose confidence. Go for your shots. We saw that with Alcaraz in the tennis, didn't we? Just go for your shots. You never know what sort of confidence levels you might unearth. Don't be frightened to lose. Have a go. That's for sure.
Okay, so it could be a bit damp and wet. Does that take... I thought West Coast's advantage could be pace around the ground against Carlton. I've still got a knock on their leg speed. Does that take it out of them a bit or not?
Well, it's more ground balls, and that's what is that's one of the key indicators these days. The ground balls. Like it was a couple of weeks ago, I did Geelong and the Gold Coast Suns, and the Gold Coast Suns were good at ground ball levels. And again last night, Essendon didn't handle it as well as Geelong, and so if they and Carlton aren't super at it, but they rely on the taller marking players, Charlie Curnow and co, and the intercept marks from Wiedering. So if they can keep the ball on the ground, they'll give themselves a shot at the title for sure.
Well, we've got one of the kings of greyhound chasing here in the West, Paul Stuart, after a big win in the Winter Cup last night.
The green light is on. The lure to the start and they're set. Ready? Racing. West on Sydney last out. Showing speed was Maylarder up on the inside of Rare Speed, who drives into second. Following him through was Firelighter, and then followed by Sunset Capone. Hunting up on the inside. Bezecchi's nice and close. Following it through was West on Sydney. Wise Barashai Emoji last. Maylarder, the Derby winner, leads down the back by 2. Bezecchi in pursuit, and so too is West on Sydney. Here's a race on the corner. Maylarder, Bezecchi, West on Sydney as they swing. Bezecchi struck the front. Maylarder kicks back on the inside. Bezecchi out wide. Maylarder, Bezecchi wins from Maylarder. Third in West on Sydney, then followed by Firelighter.
That was a terrific win by Bezecchi. It was always going to be a tough watch, but he was able to do it. And Paul Stewart, that was one of 4 winners last night at Cannington. G'day, Paul. Congratulations. What a win by Bezecchi.
Yeah, morning, guys. He was super last night. He made use of the inside draw, which was good to see for him. And, he just got the job done.
Paul, well done. Excellent. I heard the great man calling the race, and he said, Bezecchi's nice and close. He wasn't early going out the straight the first time, was he?
No, that's standard behaviour from him. He's sort of always bombing the start and just, looking at where everyone else is in the field. But, from that inside draw, he has a habit of, if he has an opportunity to hook wide, he will. If they hem him in, he will stay on the fence, and that's when he normally does his best work. So, fortunately, there was someone to hold him in, and he railed through from there.
Well, the race panned out according to the market, didn't it? All the 3 favourites were fighting it out, if you like, and it was good to see Bezecchi really knuckle down in the straight and get the win. Now, that's his 17th win from 39 starts. Prize money now over $200,000. He's a real winner.
Yeah, he is. He's always there. If he's not winning, he's always in the placings. I couldn't tell you a run where he hasn't been close to the winner. So he's just a very consistent sort of dog. He's just whether he gets that luck in transit, depending on where he wins or runs a place or flashes home. But he's just a very consistent dog like that. And he's been touch wood. He's been very sound as well at this stage. So hopefully he can just continue on and finish off a nice career.
Paul, you're a genius, and I know you've got a lot of ice-cold veins, blood running through your veins. Were you a little bit nervous? Did the heart rate go up a little bit when Western Sydney was approaching the corner? Did you think that, we might get caught here?
Well, it was interesting. I was sort of watching sort of Firelighter early doors because he was the one I actually thought would probably lead. And then he was sort of nowhere. I've just seen the one skip away down the back. And to be fair, it was probably halfway down the back. I seen Bezecchi sitting second. I thought, oh, geez, this is good. And then as soon as I looked behind, it was Western Sydney. And then even coming around the home turn, sort of coming closer towards us behind the boxes, he was. I think Western Sydney checked off one of the dogs in front of him, and I think that was just enough to buy him a bit of time. And my Larder kicked again. I thought we were just going to go straight past him down the straight, but he kicked real hard, and he just got there. So he's always that type of dog. You never think you're going to win until he crosses the line first. He's always doing something funny, but fortunately he got clear and got it done.
No such thing as a crazy question, but because he's always running on, a 7.15, have you ever tried him over ground or not?
I've put him over 600, and to be fair, he was pretty disappointing.
Yep.
I give him about 3 or 4 runs, and his first couple were really well. He ran really well, and then I thought, and then he just started getting a little bit slower every time. So, yeah, he's a funny dog. I mean, like last night, he was not really even puffing after the run. And then, like he'll be stepped up next week over 600. There's a Paradise Street Heats on. He'll go into that. But, yeah, from what I've seen of him over 600, he sort of hits a flat spot where he takes off, and then the last sort of 50 he sort of struggles. So, yeah, he looks like he'd run 700, but from what I've seen, he can't. So, yeah, we'll stick him to what he's good at.
So to increase them in trip, do you increase their training at all? Or how do you do that? How do you prepare them for the longer trips?
Oh, not really. They even sort of have it or don't. You more just have to increase just the distance in which they run, really. I mean, the work at home, he runs 600-700 metres a day, so it's not like he can't do it. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's just more the just how hard they chase. And, he's a funny dog where it's like he probably does it early and then he sort of floods home. But when he's been over 600, he's jumped on the arm and sort of burns the candle out early, and you can't really do it at both ends. So, yeah, those stayers are pretty hard to find, ones that can sort of jump on the arm and keep running. So, but, yeah, I mean, he might be different this time around, but, 6 months ago, there was no chance he'd run 700.
Well, Marty said you had the stable and its eye in last, or the kennel. It's eye in last night. It started in race 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. Jumped well and made use of box 8 with the 7 dog coming across and carving the race up for him. So he got into a good spot and won. It was a good start for him for a maiden. And, yeah, the other 2 winners, they were expected to win. I think they both went around as about $1.50 favourites. So I didn't let the punters down for a change.
I know that, but geez, they were impressive wins, weren't they? Let's just talk about them in isolation. In race number 6, Finales from the 2.
Yeah, he was good. That was his first trip over 700. He's Bezecchi's brother, and I thought he missed the kick, and he was sort of 3rd or 4th, and then he whipped around him and got to the front, and there was a bit of. To be fair, his margin got over-exaggerated. There was a bit of trouble behind him, and he ended up winning by about 11. But the time was fair. It was 41.99, so that was good for him first up, and he ran it out well, which is the main thing. So we'll get to go again with him next week. And then, it was Bastianini in the novice in race 9. He was good. He done a lot wrong. He come out and crashed left and smashed the dog inside of him, and then ran around a bit on the first turn and still sort of put a gap on him down the back and held on and ran decent time for him too, 29.8. I think he ran about that. So, yeah, he was a dog that was, I think he started $1.40. It was a hard watch early because he bashed and crashed and done everything wrong, but hopefully he can take a bit of experience out of that and straighten himself out and find a bit more next time.
Hey, on a normal race, how long does it take before you work the dogs after a run like yesterday? So you win the Winter Cup. When does that greyhound have its next bit of work?
His main, probably decent work will be on a Tuesday. I normally do a Tuesday and a Thursday for a Saturday.
Yeah.
So like today, he'll go out into the paddock.
Hello.
The same.
Gotcha, mate. Yeah.
Same stuff, and then into it on Tuesday.
All right, Paul. Fantastic. Always great to chat. What a day, night it was last night at Cannington. Thanks for coming on.
No worries. Thanks very much, guys.
Paul Stuart, really does he not keep the punters in money? And they did it again there on Saturday night at Cannington. So, Brad, talking about punters and money, what about your Sunday saviour?
Well, we're going for the jugular at Wangaratta today. I think one of the listeners said it's a heavy 10 now, so obviously something's not right up there. Race 9, number 6, War Party at $4.60, Marty, and race 10, number 4, Yam at $6.50. They're both going well at the moment and handling heavy ground, and that's a vital factor when you're having a bet on those sort of tracks, that's for sure.
Now, how about Braith Knock? We got a text here from Snozzer. Marty, give Braith Knock a rap. What a day he had at Rose Hill.
Yeah, he was incredible. He's a really, really good apprentice, and he's just shining. And he just gives every horse or every mount a chance. And he had his eye on yesterday. He was an absolute ripper.
He's the man with a caterpillar moustache. he's a funny looking chap, isn't he? But he can certainly boot one home. Hey, so Brad, you're covering the game today, West Coast and Carlton?
I personally won't be, but I'll certainly be watching it. That's for sure, Marty. So we'll throw out a tip 30 minutes before both games, and hopefully we can get in the queue. We've been in the queue a fair bit lately, so we just need to try and do it again with the shortened version of the rounds.
Okay, and just for the tipping comps, first off, who wins between Port Adelaide and Melbourne?
Yeah, I'm leaning at Port because it's at home, and I think West Coast have got a silly chance here. Silly chance. You're
putting them in? Are they in the tipping or not?
Yeah. The best outsiders for the round.
Okay, loans 1, 2, 3, and what about Group 1 Morts?
Oh, he's a ripper, Morts, isn't he? And you would have seen him on...
he's up there.
He's up there all the time. Yeah, he's up there. He's up above your head. I know you're looking at him now.
Thanks, Bradley.
Good stuff, mate. I'll look forward to seeing the boys tomorrow.
I want to know where you went.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelpline.org.au.